What up, Black man? Welcome to the Writing Miles channel, where we discuss faith, mental health, personal development, and entertainment for the purpose of helping Black men to be more confident in who God has created and called them to be for His glory and for the good of others. What's going on, folks? What's going on? What's going on, guys? I'm your host, Jam Calpin, here with another episode. Discussing some things that I think is important for us to really live for God's glory and for the good of others. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the importance of being aware of your spiritual sensitivity. And the thing is, as believers, I don't think we spend a lot of time really talking about. Well, I mean, I guess it all really depends on like the denomination that you're in and stuff like that. But we are three-part beings, and we can see that in scriptures. I think it's 1 Thessalonians that talks about that we are spirit, soul, and body, and that part of God's salvation is that He's going to save us, spirit, soul, and body, and each part of us has highs and lows and elements that we need to be aware of. Like your physical body has things that you gotta do to take care of it. Like you gotta clean yourself, you gotta feed yourself, you gotta sleep, you gotta rest, you gotta take care of your body. You also gotta take care of your soul, and you also gotta take care of your spirit. And the thing is, like, you have to be mindful of those different aspects of you so that you can, as a whole person, as a whole being, can be healthy and in a good place. And I don't think we take enough time to be really aware of that, of how important it is that we know what our spiritual strengths are, our spiritual, or even also our spiritual weaknesses. Like, there are certain things in this life that some of us are more sensitive to than others. It's just true. Like, for example, I remember in college, I had some friends that really, were really into hip hop and like rap music and stuff like that. And I am too, to some degree, but definitely during college, I was super zealous when it came to the faith. So like, only thing I was listening to seriously, was like Christian music. So whether it's Christian rap, Christian rock, gospel music, praise and worship music, like I wasn't really listening to anything secular at that time. And eventually, I think as I grew and as I matured in my faith and my faith walk, I started listening to more like secular stuff, or I was able to consume that kind of stuff. But there was definitely a season where I wasn't listening to anything, maybe if I heard it on the radio or whatever, but intentionally on my part, I wasn't pushing play on anything secular if I didn't have to. But I bring that up to say that there are some people who are, certain content doesn't bother them as much, like say cuss words or stuff like that. Like it doesn't really bother them. Like, they can hear it in movies or in shows and stuff like that, and they won't like cringe. It won't bother them at all. And I'm not saying that like, oh, because they don't cringe at like cuss words or curse words or whatever, that like they're less Christian or less of a believer or have a further relationship or a less intimate relationship with God. I'm not saying that at all. Some people are just not as sensitive to that stuff. I think of other like entertainment that we might watch is like certain TV shows or movies. Like some people can watch like certain sci-fi stuff or certain like crime shows, or even think about like Marvel or like DC comic stuff. Like some of that stuff, some people can watch and it'd be okay. Even if it's fantasy kind of like action or drama or things like that. Some people can watch it and be fine. Other people are like, I can't watch it. It's too violent. Or like it's too realistic or whatever. Like they have different sensitivities to it. And again, it's super important that we realize what's our gauge. Why? Because we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. We have to guard our hearts. We have to guard our spirits. We have to guard our bodies, and we have to guard our soul. And if you aren't aware of the things that you're sensitive to, then you could just be putting yourself in like all kinds of precarious situations. Like I talked about in a previous episode about like fan service. Like you might not be able to watch certain animes because that stuff will drive you to lust if you're watching that particular anime or whatever. Like you got to be aware of that stuff so that you can be healthy, so that you can, live the way that God is leading you to live. And for me, like, I know I can't watch horror movies for a couple of reasons. It's not to say that I'll be scared, but I know like I am sensitive to that stuff, and I also have bad experiences with certain movies and certain content and stuff that has impacted me spiritually. Like I've definitely had the experience of like watching certain movies, and I've heard other people give these testimonies too, of like watching certain movies, whether it's like, say like The Ring, or like there's been an uptick for the past few years with more like paranormal stuff or like spiritual related stuff. So like exorcisms and things like that. I'm not going to watch that stuff. One, because I know that stuff is real. I know that demons are real. I know that demonic spirits and presence and stuff, all that stuff is real because I've experienced it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to entertain it. I'm not going to open myself up to it. And I'm not going to let it in to the best of my ability. I'm not going to let it into my house. Like, entertainment can be a gateway. Like for some people, like, yo, what are you tripping? No, like entertainment, movies that you watch, music that you listen to, even some books that you read, that stuff can be a gateway, and a gateway into the spirit realm. And you can let things in, and you have to be careful of that. You really do. You have to be careful of it. And some people are like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. I'm just gonna watch whatever horror movies I want to watch. I'm gonna play whatever scary games I want to watch, and they don't have any issues. Well, praise God for that. But I know for me, I don't know for me in my house, we can't do that. We can't open that door. Because again, I've had bad experiences of watching movies. Like I remember this one time, I had some brothers that were staying at the house with me, and this wasn't even a horror movie, but they were staying at the house with me, and they were getting ready to watch The Matrix, actually, which is still one of my favorite movies. Getting ready to watch The Matrix, and I didn't know they were watching that movie, but I was upstairs in a different room, and they were downstairs in the basement of the house, and they put on the movie, and I don't even think it had started that much. Like it wasn't that far into the movie, but I had a sense that something was off. Something was absolutely off. So I went and walked to the door that was leading down into the basement. One of the brothers came over and he was like, "Did you sense that too?" And so again, I have these experiences, and it's like, I know I'm not crazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not crazy, and I've had these experiences. So like, we conferred with each other. It was like, nah, something's off. And like, I came down, I was like, what's going on? And they were like, yeah, we just put in this movie. I was like, all right, we need to check this joint. So took out the movie, threw it away, because it messed up the atmosphere. It messed up the spiritual atmosphere in my home. And it's crazy because like I've seen that movie many times, but at some point, at that one instance, whatever happened, we both sensed it, both threw it off, and we adjusted to it. And the thing is, again, whether you want to call it a spirit of discernment or just being spiritually aware of stuff or sensitive, like you need to know. Like you need to know where you are to guard yourself and even to guard your family, friends and whoever. Like you need to be aware of that. Like that's important in our faith walk. Like we need to be able to have that sense of discernment to know what things we can or cannot entertain. And, I've had many experiences like that. I've had those kind of experiences with certain people too. Like, okay. So in this particular experience, I was, if we're being honest, I was talking to somebody I shouldn't have been talking to. I was talking to a woman that I shouldn't have been talking to in a romantic and inappropriate way at the time. But the thing is, like, whenever I would talk to her, I would have, I guess, what's called sleep paralysis every time, every time. And I guess there is grace and mercy in that, because I think the Father was kind of telling me, he's like, You shouldn't be talking to her. You shouldn't be doing this. You know this. This is inappropriate. You're leading yourself down this path of sin. Don't do it. But every time, whether it was like through text or chatting online or over the phone or whatever, that night, guaranteed, guaranteed. And it happened like 3 or 4 times. And it's like, after a while, I was like, all right, you know what? I think I'm going to learn from this and not do this anymore. So I just, eventually I had to cut off that relationship or whatever. But it's true. Like, you can get that for certain people. Like, there's some people who just ain't on the same page with you. And sometimes they're aware of it and sometimes they're not. But you need to be, again, spiritually aware. You need to be sensitive. Like, you need to be in tune with your spirit self, so that you can continue to walk in the right way that the Father has for you, And again, that also plays into the content and the entertainment that you consume, And that also plays in part with your behavior. Like, for me, in that situation that I just shared about, me talking to that young lady at the time, I was being disobedient. And I had to deal with the consequences of being disobedient. And that manifests differently for different people, like signs of disobedience could be like drinking too much and getting a hangover. Hangovers suck. Your body is telling you, like, you did wrong. Like, you did too much. This is not good. You should stop doing this. Or eating certain foods and your stomach get hurt or whatever. Talking to certain people, the same thing can happen. Whether you can talk to the wrong person, and it can make you just feel enraged or depressed or whatever. Like, it's not good. Like, you need to pay attention to these things. Like, we have to be aware of these things. And it's important because if we're not, we are not doing a good job of, like, having self-control, not having temperance. Like, we need to be aware of those things so that we, as mature men, and as we're trying to be who God has called us to be, trying to live for his glory and for the good of other people, we need to have that self-control. And we need to be aware of our range and what we can do and what we can handle. So that, one, we can have good leadership of ourselves, but good leadership of others if we need to, because God calls us all to be leaders in one way or another. And so we need to have that. Like, it's important. It's important. And again, like, spiritual sensitivity is a real thing. It's a real thing. And different people have different sensitivities. Like, maybe God is calling you to go minister to a certain group of people that I can't minister to because of my sensitivities. I think it's in 1 Corinthians. It talks about, is it first? It's in the New Testament. I know it's in the New Testament, but it talks about, be careful of who you're trying to help, because you might fall too. You might fall and get caught up in the same sin that you're trying to help somebody else with. That comes with maturity. That also comes with, like, again, being aware of your spiritual range and your spiritual sensitivities, because, like, it's really hard to help somebody who's struggling with alcoholism or lust and pornography if you're struggling with it like the day before or like hours before. It's not to say that you can't try to help, but you need to be aware of, like, I got to find you somebody else that can help you, or I have to pray for you from a distance, because if I jump in there, I'm going to get caught too. And so that's really what I'm saying. Like, we have to be aware that this spiritual life, this other aspect of our being, spirit, soul, and body, is super important. And we need to be sensitive to it. We need to be aware of our sensitivities and use that discernment. God gives us a spirit of discernment. We may have to pray and ask God to help develop it, but he does give us discernment, and we need to use it because this world and this enemy that we're wrestling with ain't no joke, and it's tricky. It will catch you with the okie doke. Like, again, I said, watching certain stuff, you can be watching a cartoon or anything and be, 15 minutes in, and then it'll take a real crazy turn. Like, there's some episodes of American Dad that are kind of like that, like, a really weird. Like, there was an episode, I think it was a Christmas episode, or it was supposed to be a Christmas episode, and then, like, halfway in there, it's funny now, but Seth MacFarlane's an interesting guy. But this episode of American Dad, again, it's a Christmas episode. I believe. And like it starts off, they are going to church or whatever, and the rapture happens or something like that. And so then the Antichrist comes back, and then Stan has to help Christ, Jesus Christ, fight the Antichrist. And it's just crazy. It's like, what is this? And I think for some people, that might not be a good show to watch if you don't have, again, the spiritual maturity to watch it. Like, that thing will make you uncomfortable, make you confused, make you frustrated, make you angry. And for some people, you just don't watch it. Just don't watch it. There's some shows that people, if we're trying to walk this walk out, maybe you just shouldn't watch that. You just shouldn't watch it. Anyways, I'm starting to ramble. But that's my whole point. Like, take time to pray about it and to work on developing your spiritual discernment and being aware of your spiritual sensitivities. We all have them. We all have them. If there's something that you kind of feel gray about or on the line about, pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to how watching or listening to certain things actually make you feel. Pay attention to how being around certain people makes you feel, or being in certain environments makes you feel. Pay attention to this stuff. We are given a spirit, a soul, and a body in this whole human experience for a reason. So don't neglect either of those. Pay attention to your spirit, pay attention to your soul, and pay attention to your body. And in this particular episode, I'm just trying to encourage you, pay attention to your spirit. Be aware that you do have spiritual sensitivities, and you need to check them. From time to time, you got to check them. All right, well, that's another episode. Thanks for listening to the show. Be sure to subscribe and like and share on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favorite podcasting app, rate and review. Really, really, really appreciate the rates, reviews, the likes, the shares, and all that stuff. And let me know if there's anything else that you would want me to talk about or cover on the channel. But remember, Black man, be confident in who God has created you to be. You're here for a purpose, to live for His glory and for the good of other people. Choose to live in vibrant excellence. All right, until next time, y'all be safe. Peace.